Guys, it's Miss Marflack here. The last time we met, we went through quadrants 1 and 2 of the unit circle. Today we're going to be finishing up 3 and 4 very quickly, and then you're going to have a separate video that's going to be your quiz review. It's very important to stick around for the full length of this video because towards the end we're going to be going over the unit circle, and it's going to be nice and neat and clean, and I'll have all the coordinate points here, and this is something that you're definitely going to want to use on your quiz. And your quiz will have very simple questions like, what's the coordinate point at 330 degrees? And then you'll have the coordinate point right there. For those of you who don't stick around throughout this whole video, won't be able to get those questions correct. All right, now the last time we met, we talked about how this can be very, very, very confusing. However, we're kind of simplifying and putting just our angles and our coordinate points down here. We talked about how we're using our 30, 60, 90, 45, 45, 90 triangle. We just switched that hypotenuse to have radius 1 because our unit circle has radius 1. Then we put these triangles inside of our unit circle, and then we put our legs, and then we figured out that our x coordinate is this leg and our y coordinate is that leg, and our x coordinate would always be cosine because it's adjacent to the angle, and our y coordinate would always be sine because it's opposite the angle. We're moving on to quadrant 3 now, and we're going to take our first reference angle, which is 30 degrees, and if this is 180, then we're going to go 30 degrees past 180. So that's what I'm going to do here, 30 degrees past 180. And then you can already see that this leg here is in purple. That's the negative square root of 3 over 2, which makes this leg my hypotenuse 1, and that makes this leg 1/2, but I went down, so this is a negative 1/2. So this coordinate point here would be my x coordinate, negative square root of 3 over 2, and my y coordinate, negative 1/2. Our next triangle is our 45-degree triangle, which is drawn in baby blue here. So that's going to be right here. And we could see in baby blue that this leg is negative square root of 2 over 2, and we can use our simplified triangle over here, which means this leg is square root of 2 over 2, but we went down on the y-axis, so this leg is also negative. And then my x-coordinate, or my x leg, is negative square root of 2 over 2, and my y leg is negative square root of 2 over 2. I keep writing 3. All right, and then for this last triangle in quadrant 3, that's going to be our 60 degrees. And we can see that it is written in pink. Now, even though we've written over it over and over again, we can see that that leg between the 60 degree and the 90 angle is 1/2. It goes to the left, so it's negative 1/2. So then our other leg is negative square root of 3 over 2. And my x-coordinate is negative 1/2, and my y-coordinate is negative square root of 3 over 2. But this can be really confusing to look at, so we're going to throw in our simplified version down here. And if we go 30 degrees past 180, right? 30 degrees past 180, we add 30 degrees, this is going to be 210 degrees. And the coordinate point from up here on our unit circle is negative square root of 3 over 2, negative 1/2. All right, and then now we're taking a look at that baby blue. If we're 45 degrees past 180, that makes this angle on our unit circle 225 degrees. And we can see our coordinate point is negative square root of 2 over 2, negative square root of 2 over 2. And then our last one in that dark pink there is 60 degrees. Well, if I go 60 degrees past 180, that means I'm at 240 degrees, and my coordinate point I'm going to squeeze down here is negative 1/2 and negative square root of 3 over 2. All right, one more quadrant to go, and here we are. We're going to start with our pink triangle, and we're going to put in that reference angle of 60 degrees. All right, and we're 60 degrees away from 360, and we could see this leg, I just wrote over it in pink, was positive 1/2 between our 90 and our 60. So that would make this leg square root of 3 over 2, but you go down on that axis, that y-axis, and my x-coordinate, like I said, is at positive 1/2, and my y-coordinate is negative square root of 3 over 2. Doing that triangle in baby blue now. This is going to be our 45-degree triangle, 45 degrees away from that axis. This leg we can see is square root of 2 over 2. This leg is also square root of 2 over 2. It went down, so it's going to be negative. So we have a positive square root of 2 over 2, and then negative square root of 2 over 2. And this is why we'll clean things up a little bit later on this final circle. And then the last triangle is our 30-degree triangle. So we're 30 degrees away from that x-axis. We can see that this leg here is positive square root of 3 over 2, and this leg here would be a negative 1/2. So this coordinate point here is my x value, which is square root of 3 over 2, and my y value, which is negative 1/2. And then now we're going to transfer this onto my a little bit more simplified circle, and we're going to start with that pink. Well, if we're 60 degrees away from this axis, that means that full angle is 300 degrees, and then you add the 60 and you're at 360. So this is 300 degrees, and the coordinate point at 300 degrees was 1/2 negative square root of 3 over 2. And then we did our 45 and our baby blue. And if we're 45 degrees away from 360, we're at 315, and the coordinate point there was square root of 2 over 2 and negative square root of 2 over 2. And then the last point here was our 30 degrees, and if we're 30 degrees away from 360, we're at 330, and our coordinate point was square root of 3 over 2, negative 1/2. All right, so this does it for almost all of our angles. The last angles that we have to throw in here are our quadrantal angles, such as 0 degrees, which is also 360 degrees, 90 degrees, 180 degrees, which I already got there. Ooh, I wish I wrote it in pink. And then 270 degrees. And then we can figure out our coordinate points on these quadrantal angles, because our radius is 1, which would make this coordinate point here 1, 0. This would make this coordinate point 0, 1. This would make this coordinate point negative 1, 0. And that would make this coordinate point 0, negative 1. And then there we are, there's our beautiful unit circle. And I want anybody to tell me that looking at this, tell me math isn't art. It is a beautiful art. I'd be happy to argue with anybody. I look at it and it's really satisfying for me to look at that unit circle. All right, now I know this is really, really complicated. We're gonna simplify it now, and we're gonna throw it onto our little graphic organizer, but just one more thing I kind of want to point out is take a look at the signs. In quadrant 1, x and y are both positive. In quadrant 2, x is negative, all the y's are positive. In quadrant 3, all the x's and the y's are negative. And then in quadrant 4, x's are positive, y's are negative. Now, every time you want to do your unit circle, you don't want to do all of this work. So instead, we're going to use this key kind of point here that cosine is our x coordinate and sine is our y coordinate. And we're going to use this triangles to kind of quickly build it, and then you'll be able to just quickly check your work. All right, switching to this pretty template now. I will upload a blank template, so if you can print it out, I think that would be great. If you can't, don't worry about it. All right, now I can choose anywhere to start. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put some X's where we're not going to be filling in anything. All these X's here is where our radians are supposed to go, and we are not doing the unit circle in radians. We are just doing the unit circle in degrees. So Miss Marfak's gonna go ahead. She's gonna put all those X's there. All right, and then now we can get started. I'm gonna get started. I always like filling in the degrees first. I think that's kind of like the easiest thing for me to do. So I'm gonna start off here. Well, this is 0 degrees, this is 30, and we're just using those reference angles, 45, 60, and 90. So we should be very comfortable with that. And then once we wanna do the rest, it's helpful to have the quadrantals, the 180, it's helpful to have the 270, and it's helpful to have the 0, and that's also 360. All right, now I want to use these reference angles to get these angles. Okay, well, 60 degrees away from 180 is 120. All right, see the 60 there? 45 degrees away from 180 is 135. Use a calculator. And then 30 degrees away from 180 is 150. Use a calculator if you don't believe me. And then now we're 30 degrees past 180. We add 30 degrees to 180. We add 45 degrees to 180. And then we add 60 degrees to 180. We subtract 60 degrees. We subtract 45 degrees. And then we subtract 30 degrees. And then there are all of our angles. Now I think it's really helpful and super, super easy to fill in the quadrantal coordinate points, because we know that this is radius 1. So this point is 1, 0, this point is 0, 1, this point is negative 1, 0, and this point is 0, negative 1. 0, negative 1. All right, now is where things get fun. Okay, we're going to use these triangles to help us. So we got our 30, we got our 60, we have our 1, our square root of 3, our 2, we got our 45, 45, 91, 1 square root of 2, okay? Or you could have used the one that we built together that has hypotenuse 1. All right, so we know our first coordinate is our cosine, so let's do cosine of 30 degrees. That's adjacent over hypotenuse. That's square root of 3 over 2. And in quadrant 1, x and y are positive, so this is positive. Now let's do sine of 30 degrees. That's going to be opposite over hypotenuse. That's 1/2. Let's do cosine of 45 degrees. Adjacent, you can use either angle, adjacent over hypotenuse. Well, that's 1 over square root of 2, but we do have to rationalize that. You're not allowed to have radicals in the denominator. There's my rationalization, and I'm left with square root of 2 over 2. And then sine of 45 degrees is going to be the same thing. Maybe I should write up here for us. Cosine theta is our x-coordinate, and sine theta is our y-coordinate. Now, we were able to see that visually really clearly with the triangles that the adjacent leg to the angle is on the x-axis and the opposite leg is on the y-axis. All right, now let's do 60 degrees. We're going to have adjacent over hypotenuse, and then we're going to have opposite over hypotenuse. And we already got 90 filled in. All right, now we're in quadrant 2, where x's are negative, right? If you want to plot -3, 4, you go 1, 2, you go 3 to the left, and you go up 4. The x value is negative. So all these x values are negative, and all those y values are positive. And we're going to use the same coordinate points as our reference angle. The reference angle to 120 is 60, so we're using this coordinate point, which is -1/2 and square root of 3 over 2. We're using this coordinate point because the reference angle to 135 is 45 degrees, and then we're using this coordinate point because the reference angle to 150 is 30 degrees. All right, now the reference angle to 180 from 210 to 180 is 30 degrees. So we're going to use this coordinate point, but now we're in quadrant 3 where our x and our y is negative. So you're going to have negative square root of 3 over 2 and -1/2. All right, and then now the reference angle to 225 is 45 degrees. So we use the coordinate point from 45 degrees, and it's negative, and then we use a coordinate point for our reference angle 60 degrees, and we're in quadrant 3 where both are negative. Now we're moving on to quadrant 4 where the x's are positive when you go to the right on your coordinate plane, and the y's are negative because you're going down here. Now you're going to use your 60 degree, let's see if I can get them both in, I can. We're going to use our 60 degree coordinate point, which means that this is going to be 1/2 negative because the y's are negative, square root of 3 over 2. We're going to use our 45 degree coordinate point. And then lastly, we're 30 degrees away from the x-axis. We're going to use our 30 degree coordinate point. And then here's our unit circle. Now, as you get to pre-calc, you will have to have this memorized, no doubt. But here at the Algebra 2 level, you can use this while taking your quiz. So like I said, I really wanted you to focus on understanding what I was doing here. And then now that it's kind of completed, you have it, and hopefully you understand a little bit better on how we were able to build it kind of quickly. As you get used to using this unit circle, you'll start to see a lot of patterns, such as anything on a straight line has the same coordinate point. See, straight line, same coordinate point. Only thing that's different are the signs. These two are in a straight line. All right, they got the same coordinate point. So things like that, you do start to see patterns. Now, we're going to be using the unit circle, not really, we'll use it a little bit for our quiz. I can only ask you basic questions such as, what is the coordinate point at 315 degrees? And you would, this would be one of the options. What is the coordinate point at 210 degrees? This would be one of the options. So kind of just identifying on the unit circle. However, going forward in our next few videos after our quiz, we're definitely going to be using the unit circle by saying, okay, what's the cosine of 150 degrees? Well, that's going to be my x-coordinate. What's the sine of 300 degrees? That's my y-coordinate, and so on, okay? So make sure you have this down somewhere. Make sure you have it available to you while you are taking your quiz. I'm going to turn off this video, and then I'm going to get started on another video for you guys. Please check it out. It is going to be your quiz review. All right. Email me if you have any questions before you begin your quiz, which won't be for another day or two. Bye, guys.